Today I'm sitting in front of my writing desk. This normally serves as the blurry background for the videos I make, but I want to talk about this desk today and why I value it so much, why it is so helpful for me when I'm trying to do more focused or deep work, and some considerations you might want to take into account for how you could set up something similar even if you don't have space to set up something just like this. My name is John Chandler, and on this channel I talk about practical wisdom for mindful living. And I describe mindful living as living with an awareness of how you are living. So I like to talk about habits, I like to talk about tools or practices to help you be more present to your life, to make the most of how you live each day and hopefully give you something that you'll be thankful that you can look back on in the long run. So about this desk, we moved into this house about 4 years ago, and I was really excited to set up this space as my office. This was the first room that got painted. It was the only room that actually got painted before we even moved into the house, because I wanted to be able to hit the ground running and do the work that I do because I work from home, and I just wanted to be set up for that. And so I've got my desk over there, which is like a big, sit-stand desk with my desktop computer and a big monitor, and that's where I do most of my work day to day. I have my reading chair over there, but here was this blank wall that sat unused for the first year or two that we lived here. And finally one weekend, I just got a bug in my boo, I suppose, and realized I wanted to create a little separate workspace here. And so I did. I kind of came up with my own plan. I went and bought this, just big piece of wood and finished it. Underneath, there's really a bunch of scrap wood and stuff like that, some hinges. This desk can fold down to get out of the way, but most of the time it's set up like this. And so sometimes I would use it as a writing desk. Sometimes I would use it almost as a makeshift workbench. But about a year ago, I set it up to function like this, with this extra screen and an iPad set up at this, and it has been, for me, a dream come true. I'll tell you more about the setup in a minute and why this is so valuable, but when my kids were young, I literally had the same dream multiple times. We lived in a small little house. There was not a space for me to have an office or anything like that in our house, and I mostly worked from home, so my desk was at the end of the bed in the master bedroom. Literally, I could look to my left and see my kids' bedrooms and their bathroom. I mean, it was close quarters. And in that time, I dreamed at least 3 times, if not more, that I found some kind of unused space that had previously been undiscovered in our house that I could set up as an office. It was a deep core longing, I think, to have some kind of focused space to do the work that I wanted to be able to do. I can still close my eyes and picture what some of those spaces look like that I dreamed about, which of course ended up looking nothing like our actual house, but that was the dream that I had. And I think the longing that was coming through in those dreams gained a lot of clarity to me a couple years ago as I was reading this book. This is called The Extended Mind by Annie Murphy Paul. The subtitle of this book is The Power of Thinking Outside the Brain. And so it talks a lot about how the environment you are in, or the tools you use, do have an impact on how you can use your mind, how you think, what kind of focus you have or might not have, what kind of things you might have the capacity to think about in a given moment. And so she talks about this idea of situated cognition, essentially saying the place you find yourself in, or the space you situate yourself in, does have an impact on how you are able to engage with the kind of work you want to do. And I think my core longing through all of those dreams was to have some kind of place where I felt like I could be more focused in doing some of the more intentional work that I wanted to do, some of the deeper work, some of the more focused work that I felt like I wanted to be able to do in that season and still in this season. And it was just a core longing for me to have that. So fast forward to about a year ago, and like I said, I had this writing desk that I just used occasionally to sit down and write in a handwritten journal. But I have always loved the iPad as a device that is more focused in terms of the kind of work I do. People complain sometimes that the iPad, it's not a real computer. You can't. That's what I love about it. I love that I don't have as much going on the iPad. I can't do as much work on it because I like to use it as a more focused device to be able to do journaling, to be able to do some planning, to, set priorities, any of that kind of work, just writing work, outlining videos like this one. And I started to see on YouTube, just really about a year ago, how well an external monitor worked with an iPad. I had not seen that before. I had tried it before a few years ago. It wasn't a great experience, but it's really become a fantastic experience to be able to use an external monitor with an iPad with a keyboard and a touchpad. And so I bought this cheap little USB-C external monitor, which has pretty good resolution. It's not low resolution. And so it's nice to look at. It's not as good as the iPad screen, but it's not terrible to look at. And I repurposed my touchpad that I had at my desk and put it here, and I had an extra keyboard. And this has become a go-to space for me. Almost every morning, I begin my day here. I'll spend some time here journaling. I typically do journaling in an app called Day One on my iPad. I've got another video about that. And then I'll spend some time planning my day. What are going to be like the big 2 or 3 tasks that I want to do that day? What are some tasks that I might need to shuffle around because I realize I'm just not going to get to them? Sometimes I do some writing, what I call my prompts folder, which I need to do a video about at some point, but that's just like things I want to think about. I will just sit down and write my way through. So this is a fantastic space every morning for that kind of work because it doesn't have the pings and the notifications and all that other stuff that's happening over there at my desktop computer. It is just me and my thoughts and the keyboard and the screen. And so I keep it intentionally simple. And one of the things that Annie Murphy Paul said in that chapter that I think really captures why this desk has become so valuable to me, once I get this back open here, she writes this in that same chapter about situated cognition. She says, researchers have identified a more general effect as well. When people occupy spaces that they consider their own, they experience themselves as more confident and capable. They are more efficient and productive. They are more focused and less distractible, and they advance their own interests more forcefully and effectively. It's almost like this is a literal safe space for me to be able to sit with my thoughts and help them to come out, help give birth to them, and how I want to set my priorities and how I want to set my plans. And I think that's what that dream was that I kept having, was this longing for some kind of safe space where I could do focused, deep work, really see what's going on in my heart, really see what's going on in my mind, put those thoughts together and help form them in a space like this. So what might it look like for you to have a space like this? Maybe you don't have a spare wall anywhere, wherever you might live, that you could set up a desk like this. Maybe you do. I can tell you that you could go to your neighborhood IKEA and get a simple fold-down desk like this that they sell there for less than $100 and create a space like this for yourself. Maybe you have space for something like this and you hadn't considered setting it up, and I would encourage you to do that. It might be that you don't have that option. And for you, I might imagine what could be a space that you could temporarily transition day after day. Maybe it is one of those fold-down desks that you just go, maybe it's even in a hallway in your house, right? You have a wide enough hallway that you can fold it down. Maybe you just have a space that can't really serve a purpose as a full-time desk space, but could have a temporary fold-down space for something like that, that when you go there, you know that you are doing a different kind of thinking. You're doing a different kind of work in that space. And maybe you don't even have that option. Maybe you don't even have the option to put a little fold-down desk or something like that. Maybe it's the breakfast bar at a certain time of day when the house is quiet, before or after everyone else is up for the day. Maybe it's your back patio if you live in a place where you can use your back patio. What kind of space can you use? What kind of space that you can set up, that you can designate as it's only going to be a space for that kind of work? It is your situation for the kind of deep, focused cognition that you want to have, where you want to think more deeply, where you want to move more slowly with your thoughts and linger with them and make sense of them. So I'd love to hear from you. Maybe you already have a space like this. Maybe you can tell me how to improve my space. Maybe you can share other ideas for how you create this kind of space where you can do more thoughtful, slower, deep, focused work. Leave a comment below. I'd love to hear from you. And of course, if you're new to the channel, if you've just stumbled across me here, I would be glad to have you subscribe, hit the notification button, because these are the kind of videos I do, just talking about how can you live with an awareness of how you are living. What is some practical wisdom for mindful living? Thanks so much for watching.